Hey everyone, Maury Dunbar here back at Painted Studio. Yes, we are coming out of the deep freeze that we were in. It was so cold I couldn't get a lot of stuff to work, so I did not do any lives the last few days. It was not something that was worth trying to do because I was having a lot of things fail. Even with the heat here, there was so much ambient cold. We got down to like minus 12 at one point. So even with plenty of ambient heat, we just were not having things perform. So I wasn't going to do a live until I knew we could get things to work properly. So we are back at above zero temperatures. It's in the 20s now, which is, for me, that's pretty normal. I know not for everybody. And for those of you in the South who've been getting snow and freezing weather, I'm sorry. I know that's not what you signed up for. So stay warm. We delayed shipping on products for a few days simply to preserve them from being frozen in shipping. So we started shipping again yesterday. We got up into the 20s and it was safe for me to ship out with any liquid products that I might have been concerned. Otherwise, freezing, we put hand warmers in and then we double insulate for packing and shipping, which is very, very important when you're in deep freeze areas. We're back to normal now. All works fine and we're good to go. So now we're going to do some fun projects. Now, last week we did a ton of double and triple foiling. We did patterns like this one, and let's see, what do we got? This was layers upon layers upon layers of foils that layered stencils to kind of give a garden effect. I think this one came out so beautifully. Let's see. We did our bearded irises. Those came out beautifully. That's a single stencil, but multi-layered. So we were playing with multi-layered stencils and foils. And here's where we started last week with our foo dog. And I think we got a lot of great stuff done with that. Hang on a second. I thought I had my iPad open to my page, but clearly I didn't because it just shut down on me. Here we go. All right. And let's see. There we go. All right, we've notified everybody that we're live. You know, if you might notice, I'm not doing the followers thing an awful lot anymore because it seems to annoy people. But if I haven't been live for a couple days, I usually do it so people know. So the new project we're starting is giant thermal tumblers. Now, these are from the dollar store. A friend of mine sent them to me. As you can see, they were all of $5. Yeah, I know, dollar store, but still, tumbler like this big for $5, it's a deal. And they're great ones for me to do demos on for you. So we're going to flip the camera down so that we can get going on. No, I keep looking down, but I have a lot of stuff around me. I'm trying not to knock things over. So I'm just trying to pay attention and not make a big mess because I've already done that once today. Yeah, I knocked green paint everywhere. So let's put this down here. So these are these huge, how much does it say? 40-ounce tumblers. Now, I don't normally drink out of anything this big, but these are great for the beach. They are stainless steel. The instructions from these are cheapo Aquaflow ones from, like I said, from the dollar store. It says, wash before use, stainless steel vessel, hand wash, no abrasives, never use in microwave, conventional oven, do not place in freezer, do not place in dishwasher. So these are not dishwasher safe, which is fine. They never have been. The reason tumblers like this aren't dishwasher safe is that they're vacuum sealed, and you put them in the dishwasher, that vacuum sealing on them starts to go away. It dissipates. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tape off the areas that we're not going to paint. This got gunk all over it. What the heck did I do? Well, thank goodness one of our steps is cleaning. Now, I did remove the label from the bottom. Unlike some of other brands, this one had a stupid label that did not want to come off. So I had to use Goo Gone to get the label dissolved off there and get all the adhesive off. So as a result, there's a little bit of a residue on here now, but that's fine. We'll get that off in a little bit. So these happen to have this stainless steel band on them, which makes it very easy to tape off. I don't always tape off at the top because I don't always need to, but these have the band, so I'm not going to try to foil over the band. And I want to tape off really well here. I'm going to burnish it. And if I find that my tape's not adhering through all my steps because I've got a little bit of an oily residue on here, I'll pull the tape off later and just retape it for the next one. Now we're going to tape off the handles. I'm going to pull a little extra tape here. I think that should be enough. Now all of these handles are kind of awkward because when they go around a curved area, it makes it a little challenging. You have to play with that curve. Fortunately, this has got some flat spots that just sort of allow me to bend my tape into the position I want a little bit. And then there we go. You can tape before or after cleaning and sanding. I did the other two that we'll look at in a minute after I cleaned and sanded and did all that stuff and degreased. This one I'm going to do before. Because I think it would make it a little easier to sand, just because then I won't be sanding that metal band at the top. All right, so everything's taped off. You want to run your fingers around your tape like this to make sure it's sealed tight at the edges. And then the next thing we're going to do, besides knock something over as per usual, I'm going to take a sanding block. Now you can use fine sandpaper, you can use a little coarse sandpaper. These are cheap, so I'm not worrying too much about the grit on here. I just want to take the sheen, I want to give the surface a little tooth so that when I apply my next layer, it will bond better. This is why you sand surfaces. It gives it a little tiny bit of texture known as tooth. So that things grab. Plus you're taking the gloss off of it, which again helps things bond better. Now I'm going to come up in here, sand over this. The point is not to sand through the finish, it's just to lightly sand it so you've cleaned off any shiny areas and you've given the surface, like I said, a little bit of tooth. Make sure, if you've got a cup that's shaped like this, to get this area. This area is actually a spot that gets a lot of wear because this is designed to fit in cup holders and cars and things. And that means things rub here. So you really want to make sure your surface has the tooth needed to get a better bond. Then I'm going to sand here. Again, this is an area that would get rubbed by your cup holder. Now, I know you can do this with Stanleys and stuff, but for the purposes of our demonstrations, I am using the $5 ones from Dollar Tree. And if you're new to foiling surfaces and epoxying surfaces like this, I highly suggest before you go and do an expensive one, you buy a cheap one and practice on it. It will, because if you blow up a $40 or $50 thermal cup, and there are plenty that are even more expensive than Stanley's, you'll be upset. If you destroy a $5 cup, oh well. All right, this is denatured alcohol. You can see I wrote denatured on the top here. It's in an old spray bottle for regular isopropyl alcohol. You can use isopropyl, but it needs to be 91% or higher. Or you can use denatured, which is if you're in the UK and Europe, it's methyl spirits or meths. Not the same as the drug we deal with as an issue here in the United States. It's just methylated alcohol. They have a different molecule size. Don't ask me the full details on the molecule size and stuff, but one is safe to use on skin, one is not. Denatured alcohol is toxic, so you don't want to get it on your, get a lot of it on your skin. If you're really concerned, put on gloves. For cleaning like this, I'm not worried about my skin so much as I am getting this stuff off. And as you can see, as I wipe it down, I get greasy stuff and cruddy stuff and weird gooey stuff. All of these things get cleaned. I mean, get cleaned. They get cleaned by me. They get handled by a lot of people in the manufacturing process, the packing process, the shipping process, and then the reselling process. So there's always crud on them, no matter what. It's a little like your clothes that you buy at the store. They've been sized and handled by a dozen people, so cleaning them before you wear them is always a good idea. And this is the sanded off, slightly sanded off finish and any crud that came off of there. So we're going to set that to the side. Now that it's taped, now that we're ready to go, the next thing we're going to do, besides re-burnish my tape, because I knocked it off while I was sanding, it's a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, which way something's going to go. Sorry, that brush has some water in it, so let me squeeze it out. I actually have 3 of these. So I have this gray one, I have this lavender one, and I have a black one. Now, if I could only get them in a color that I couldn't do anything with, I would apply set coat from Faux Effects in my choice of colors to change it. However, gray, black, and lavender provide me a lot of options, so I figured I might do one for every season, except, well, I don't have the 4th one, but we'll do 3 of the 4 seasons. First thing we're going to do is apply a layer of set coat clear, because the gray is a very useful base if I want to use silver and other things. So we're going to embrace each one of these natural colors, and they just do come with, I shouldn't say natural, these already applied colors. Now each of these do come with a lid and a straw, so I'm also taking full advantage of that as well. So I'm keeping the gray on here. I will not do anything to the lid, and I'm going to apply Set Coat Clear. Set Coat is a high bonding paint and primer, and they came up with a clear so that years ago it was so that when you did a finish on a wall, but the base color was already there and it was a good color for what you were doing, you could apply decorative finishing products over it and get a spectacular finish with it, because this product dries to an oil paint like finish, even though it is a water-based acrylic product. It has excellent self-leveling properties, really easy to apply, soap and water cleanup, super high bonding, as well as comes in terrific colors. And there is not just this clear, but there is also a tint base, I think. Yes, there is a tint base. I had to think for a second because I don't usually use tint base. I use clear and I use the other colors that are available. Or I take one of the colors and then adjust the coloring to whatever it is that I want. That is not the container it comes in, obviously. That's a studio container. But I always have gallons, and I pour them into small containers so that my whole gallons don't go funky. They just get sealed right back up, and then I have these little containers that I use to do my projects with. And even on job sites, when I used to go on job sites, I should say, because I don't travel to job sites really anymore. But even when I would go to job sites, if I only needed this much Set Coat Clear, I'd pour this off into a container and take this with me. I don't like having to carry more than I need. All right, let me take a little sip of my iced tea. Now these 2 cups, I have already put my Set Coat Clear on, and it has been drying. Normally you want this to dry overnight or 8 hours. For the sake of our live, we're going to move on and pretend that 3 hours ago is 8 hours. I'm going to leave these to dry then until tomorrow afternoon, so we should be completely ready to go by then. Next thing we're going to do is apply our Artsyville foil adhesive. Now again, I have studio containers, gallons that I use. I pour them into, again, smaller containers so that I don't have to have a constant open gallon. It's better for the product and better for my brain. Now let me get another brush. Again, squeeze the water out of it because I just washed a whole bunch of brushes. And what we're going to do is apply Artsyville foil adhesive. Now, Artsyville foil adhesive on something like this, you don't let it set up for the standard hour that we usually recommend. You let it set up overnight. These are harder to bond surfaces. So the harder it is to bond, meaning that it's not porous, that it's not forgiving, that it's got a coating of another kind. And the reason we use Set Coat Clear, I have discovered over the years, I could have applied my foil adhesive directly on here after sanding, but I have found that without a layer of Set Coat underneath it, it just doesn't grab as well onto the surface. And if I'm having a temperamental day with my foil adhesive, it will peel it all the way off. I will have the foil adhesive stuck to the foil instead of the surface, and so Set Coat really works beautifully for me to make sure I have a well primed and prepped surface. Set Coat is not specifically a primer. Set Coat is a paint product that has high bonding properties. If you are on like a cabinet and wanting to do this, and your cabinets are made of something like Formica or melamine, same with countertops, you need a high bonding primer like our Whitson's Superior Adhesion Primer for those surfaces, because they get a whole different kind of wear than, say, something like a thermal cup is going to get. So, and trust me, I think you might have seen last summer that I need a little water in here. Hang on a second. This is getting a little dry. I'm spraying distilled water in here. Again, this is why I have this extra container, because things get stiff and sticky and dried out, and then you don't get as good a result. So you saw I just sprayed a little tiny bit of water in there. And those misters, you can get them at CVS, Walgreens, drugstores, hair supply places, because really they're designed for hairdressers. Mine came from Pattern Curls. I got it when I bought a bunch of products a while back, and I've had it forever. So what I was saying is that if you watch, I've done foil countertops, and I've done it over really crappy surfaces, and applying my high bonding primer was what made it possible. So I'm telling you this now. Make sure you know what your surface is. Now, if I could also use my high bonding primer on here, my Whitson's, but then I'd have to paint another color over it, and I'd have to do, it would be at least one extra step, and I don't need any extra steps for cups. So I just put that upside down, not the way I wanted it. I want it this way, because I'm gonna mess up the foil adhesive on the bottom because I'm not paying attention. Oh, this should show you how my day's been going. I've been making messes everywhere. All right, so we're gonna set that one over there with the bottom side up, because we're going to foil the bottom. Tomorrow we're gonna foil these, and we'll put foil adhesive on the gray one, and then we'll start figuring out what exactly I'm gonna do after I foil it. Will I put glitter on here? Will I put transfers after I put the foils on? What am I gonna do? We can do a lot of things. So we're gonna come up with some different ideas. And of course, if you all have any ideas, but I'm kind of gonna go with the season. So the gray one's gonna be silvery and icy cold for winter. This one will have, the black one will be kind of fall, warm and woody, autumnal feeling. The pink, the purple one, the lavender one will be spring. And if I had a vivid color one, I'd probably use that one for summer, but I only have 3, and God knows I don't need that many of these. So you can see I am brushing this on. Now the thing to know with Artsyville foil adhesive, if you are not familiar with it, it is not self-leveling. So how you apply it will leave texture. I usually brush it on, especially for surfaces like this. I use a good quality brush. I don't use chip brushes because chip brushes, the bristles are too scattered apart, they're too loose, they're too coarse, and they don't give me as nice a brush out. This will do this. This is a golden Taklon brush. It's similar to the ones we sell. And I always get a good result with this. So those are now going to dry. I'm going to clean the foil adhesive off my knuckles, and we'll flip the camera up. After last week's marathon, let me push this over here. After last week's marathon, multi-stencil, multi-layered stenciling, I thought a short one would be good today. Again, Artsyville foil adhesive, water-based soap and water cleanup. Set Coat Clear, water-based soap and water cleanup. Now we're going to let these dry well overnight. And if I come back tomorrow and find that they are still too sticky, which can happen, foil and foil adhesives don't like cold. They don't like too much humidity. That means that they need to dry longer. The cold, they need to be in a warm, above 68 degree place. I know the specs may say 65, but I have found that 65 is still a little cold to make and can make your adhesive a little temperamental. Your foils don't like to be cold, so make sure if you're doing a foiling project and you store your foils in anywhere, like if your workshop's in your garage, bring the foils inside and let them warm up at least overnight, or you will not get a great release from them. If you store your foil adhesive cold, you don't want to do that. It doesn't want to be cold. It cannot handle freezing and thawing. So store it at room temperature, normal room temperature as well. So these will stay overnight. Again, like I said, if I come back and find that these have not gotten cured enough for me to be happy to put foils on them tomorrow, I will let them cure up another night. That is what you do. Most things you can come in and come back in an hour or two. But because the product can be a little temperature sensitive, you have to get used to the feeling of tackiness. And the whole deal is, if you touch your finger to it and it feels like you're getting any gummy residue on your fingers, it's nowhere near ready to go. You need to leave it longer. If you touch it and it just sort of feels, even if you're not getting gummy residue, it just feels weirdly sticky and gummy, it's not ready to go. So just be patient with it. This is a hard time of year when it's cold and snowy and dampish out. That's not something that this stuff likes, so you have to give it the time it needs to cure. It is not a one-time fits all cure time on any of these things, and you have to be patient with it. Most of the time, I try to schedule my stuff with foil adhesive for the end of the day, so I can walk away from it and come back and do the foiling the next morning. I rarely rush my foil adhesive. I used to do it more. I used to put a hairdryer on it. I find that doesn't work, especially on something like this, because on some things you can put the hairdryer on it and it heats the surface and moisture goes out through it one way and up through the surface. On something like this that is either metal or plastic like this, moisture only has one direction to go out. There's no, unlike walls or wood or anything else, the moisture can't go in two directions, from the top and through the substrate. On metals and plastics and non-porous items like that, it can only go through the top. So then you're creating a hard layer, and it's basically like creating a skin on pudding. the moisture underneath is still there. So you just want to let this dry at its own rate. All right, everybody, have a great day. We'll be back hopefully tomorrow. It's my son's birthday today, so I'm kind of taking him out tomorrow for lunch for something special. So I plan to do an earlier live so that I can take him out. He wants to go to a special Chinese hot pot place down in Chinatown in Chicago. So I'm planning to be a lot earlier in the day so that I can get out and go out with him. All right, everybody, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.